Hi everyone, welcome to the Diamond Mothering with Caroline and Lisa. We're here to illuminate the core of the feminine force, and this is a special edition that we've created just to help mums with real life problems, which we call the feminine first aid. And we have a lady here that has an issue with her teenage daughter, and we're going to have a little talk to her about that and how we can maybe guide her through her challenges. So Lisa, would you like to introduce our guest?
Sure. So you had a nice guest coming through the back there. It was like no one came in but the door opened, so I'm assuming it was your pet.
Yeah.
I hope it was your pet, otherwise you might have ghosts in your house.
The cat.
Anyway, here we are, back to the topic. So feminine first aid tonight. We're talking to Sybil, who has a teenage daughter who is about 16. I think I've got the age right. And she's had a lot of challenges. She's a single mum. And anyway, I can let her tell you some of the challenges, but we just felt it would be great to hear what's going on for her, because I know a lot of mums have similar experiences with their daughters, and there's a place that they get to where they can feel quite overwhelmed and powerless, and it's like, where do we go from here? So Sybil, do you want to just fill us in a little bit about some of the journey that you've been having with your daughter lately?
Yeah, sure. So even for her, she's actually 14, not to correct you, but
yeah, that's okay.
Even having trouble getting her to go to school, just not listening to anything I have to say. It's just really hard getting her to listen to me, and feeling quite powerless in it all. Yeah.
And how, like, when did you find that this started to change for you? Like, did you have quite a good relationship? Because I know you've sort of mentioned you've got older children as well,
yeah.
But I think you were quite close when she was younger.
Yes, definitely. Up until about the age of 13 is when it started to go south. Yeah.
And did she change schools or anything, or was there anything different that happened in her life?
Well, she started high school at 12.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was like when she started high school, it was like she thought, I'm an adult now, I can do whatever I like, sort of thing.
Yeah. So, and I think that they do, like there's that, and this is what I think our society, our culture notices, that there's definitely a change in girls as they move into puberty, and a lot of people's experiences is that it gets pretty tough for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think that if mums can get different tools, and if they can actually emerge with her, because if you think your daughter's actually moving from being emotionally dependent on you to being emotionally independent, and in between those two states there's quite a big emerging process, and if you can move into that with her and start to emerge with her, then you actually can feel a lot more empowered in the journey as well.
Yeah.
But she's quite confrontational too, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. And she doesn't want to do anything at all with me. She just wants to be with her friends. And she is quite a powerful sort of force. She's not a meek and mild person at all.
But I would say actually that's kind of a good thing. You don't want to dampen that down either, so she's probably she's getting a sense of her own power, but then she needs boundaries as well. So I think you're probably seeing like some of her true personality coming out in her, and that's probably a great testament to you that she has that kind of power within her. But it's more to be kind of trying to, it's definitely that change where you change over from being the mum who spend loads of time together, and you've really enjoyed that, and then they want to kind of break out and have time on their own. But then it's like as if they think they want to have all the freedom straight away, and you want to keep them safe, and it's that kind of dynamic of trying to like keep them safe but give them the freedom to start to grow and go out into the world, and trying to get that balance right, that's not going to damage the relationship with you, but it's also not going to stop her from growing, that kind of way. So it is a really tricky time, like I had that as well. And I suppose I felt when I was kind of going through that, it was kind of like that, a lot of stuff that I had to kind of do myself that I felt was going to be I suppose, more conscious of the fact that she was becoming older and that I had to give her that little bit of space, but also push the, I suppose, the structures in place to keep her from, getting in trouble or things falling apart completely. But I'm just wondering, like, when did it start that she didn't want to go back to school?
That started towards like last year, that
Okay.
she's just wanting to sleep and not go to school. And I said to her, if you want to leave, that's fine, you can homeschool. I've given her that option, but she's like, I don't want to do that. But then
Okay.
even today she didn't go to school. And I'm like,
Does
I have asked her if anything's going on, but she won't tell me there's anything. But
Mhm.
Is she, do you think that she might be not good? Do you think something may have happened at school? Do you think mentally she's actually going through a stage where she might be feeling a bit depressed or anxious? Like, does she ever indicate anything to that to you? Or do you feel like
no,
she's a bit more of a...
she doesn't. No, she doesn't. Well, she says she has a big group of friends. Like, she doesn't indicate that there's anything going on. Like, I've asked her about that, and it's like she can't get her sleep pattern right. And I even got her some melatonin because I thought maybe it's that, and that's not helping at all as well. But it's like she stays up till really late, and then she can't get up in the morning, and then she says, "Oh, I feel sick."
Yes, yeah. I've heard that too.
But I don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
How do you feel now setting boundaries with her? Like, how do you feel if you have to set a boundary for her?
Well, I have said to her, I'm not going to get into trouble with the truancy people because they're going to come after me if she doesn't go to school. And I said, I've said to her, you've got this week. If you're not going to go to school, because it's already third week of school, I'm going to have to unenroll you and you'll have to do homeschooling because this can't continue. And she doesn't want to do that, but she thinks it's an idle threat because I haven't done it yet.
But then you have a daughter on your hands that
I know
you have to try and engage in schoolwork, and then you're going to increase the pressure on you, like,
yes, and that's the problem. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So let's consider another option. Okay. I think this is probably a really good time that you're here. So from what I'm hearing, I feel that there's, like, she's at the point now where you're not getting in and you're not actually being able to even sit and have a conversation with her that might benefit you both. Because it sounds to me like she's just like, there's just no way that you're getting in.
No, and shut off.
Yeah. So the more you try to get in and the more you try to create boundaries and the more you try to actually put something in place, the more she's going to fight you, because this is the dynamic that's being created. So if you can see that the way you're relating with regards to anything, whether it's school, going out, staying up, waking up in the morning, anything that happens, there's a dynamic that's being created, and the dynamic is keeping you both trapped in this power struggle.
Yeah.
So she probably feels just as trapped as you do, I would say. Like, she would be like, my mum is so horrible. She's always doing this. I'm such a victim. And you're like, my daughter's so terrible. I'm trying to talk to her. I'm trying to help her. And do you know what I mean? So both of you are probably feeling
like that.
Yeah. So, and like, it's really sad we get ourselves into these situations, because what we want most is to actually be in a loving, caring, connected relationship with that other person, especially if it's our mother or our daughter. Like, they are the closest person to us. And so it's almost like we're driving away unconsciously what we really, really want. So I would suggest, and this is like, at this point, as a human being, we often go, I want to fix, I want to be able to change this situation, I want to be able to control it. I'm going to suggest that maybe you can't. Like, maybe there's something happening with your daughter right now that you can't control, but what you can control is your state of empowerment and how you deal with it. So if you're able to step out of the dynamic, she has to start changing. She will shift. The more empowered you are, the more she is going to change, because it's going to impact her.
Right. So how do I get more empowered though? That's the bit where I always fall down.
Yep. Carolyn, do you want to add anything to what I just shared then?
Yeah, no, I think one thing I would say is, especially in your situation like that, you can feel hopeless and helpless, you know, and you feel like, you know, you feel like, oh God, it's going to spiral out, and all you can see is like, oh, she's going to like that, drop out of school, I'll have to homeschool her, or she'll be, you know, I'm going to get in trouble with, you know, you can just see all these horrible things, narratives kind of unfolding in your mind. But when it's kind of just taking your power back is kind of like, okay, just saying, letting go of that and saying, I have the power in the moment, right now, what can I do? And, you know, can I take the pressure off her in another way? Can I bring her into me? You know, how can I bring her closer to me in that's nothing to do with school? You know, like take school situation away from the dynamic nearly, you know, that kind of way, and see how can we connect, you know, just like even if she was going to be home for another week or 2 weeks, can we look at that and see how can we build a relationship again from scratch, you know, and just try to connect in a nice, simple ways. And just, you know, I suppose maybe even taking, like saying to her, you don't really care too much about school, you know, instead of putting the emphasis on school, that really like you want her to be happy and things like that, you know. So changing the dynamic again, where the control of wanting and the fear, like, because we all go into that, we all go into, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, you know, if I can't get this to work out, you know, we spiral down into this. But, you know, I find in adverse situations like that, the only thing you can really do is to be present and try to kind of get yourself in a state that you can kind of feel good enough in yourself that you can feel like really all I truly want is a connection with her, that I can have this, rebuild a connection with her regardless of school or society or anything that I feel that she needs to do, which is important, but it just sometimes gives us, it puts added pressure onto us, you know, because we feel as mums we have to, you know, we want the best for our daughters, you know, but it is difficult when you know there's something going on with her, she's not communicating it to you, and you're trying to get in and she won't let you in. So the only thing is to try and build that bridge of intimacy with her and connection. And I suppose the first thing to do is trying to yourself, you know how are you feeling? Like, you know, you must be very anxious, you must be very worried, you must be very stressed about it, Sybil, like, you know, and try and maybe tend to yourself first. What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah, I absolutely. What's really hard, because, you know, I've had these challenging moments with my daughter too, who's 15, and we do have all of these like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if in that moment. But it's almost like what's really helped me is to go, you know what, like I just have to completely let go. I have to accept that she could go anyway. She could decide to walk a journey where she ends up being a drug addict, right? Because it doesn't matter what I do or who I am. If that's her journey and she's going to choose to walk it, I can't do anything about that. And I literally have to get myself in this position where I'm saying, you know what, her journey is her journey. I can't control it. However, what I can do is be really authentic on her journey, like for me, and I can accept that, you know, we aren't going to be as connected, and that I have to be willing to let her go, but know that for me the most important thing is the connection. So some of the things I do is I will always look for things that can bring me relief. Like, it's, in a way, it's quite selfish because I'm thinking about me all the time. I'm looking inwards at me, at what I'm feeling and how I'm reacting. And I'm dealing with that first, because I know that even though that seems a bit selfish, it's actually the most selfless thing to do. Because if I can turn up for her without any dynamic, without any underlying current of wanting her to be different, because we do sometimes, we have this little, we might not say it, but there's this little thing going on underneath, like we're really trying to manipulate them into a different position. We really want to sort of push them over here, right? And we might not say it, but we've got the feeling that we have to try and do that. So it's like, we've got to get into the place where we come back into our power. And
Right.
that place, and I think you know that place where you can just sit with yourself and go, you know what, actually I'm okay right here and right now.
Yeah.
Everything's okay right here and right now. And then it's like looking at your emotions. So for me, I speak, if I'm with my daughter and she says something and all of a sudden I can feel myself sliding into powerlessness. And in fact, we had a moment like that today where she was just in quite an emotional state, but sort of not communicatable with. And I just could see that it didn't matter if I was present for her or what was happening. There was just she just was choosing this place for herself. And so I went into, I just felt really like, I feel so frustrated. Like, I was, oh, okay, this is bringing up frustration in me. So I actually said to her, look, I just need some space. And I walked out because I knew that I couldn't stay there if I had an emotional reaction, because anything that I said or did, she would feel what was going on underneath anyway. It didn't matter how I turned up. She would have felt me trying to control her or trying to, like fix the situation or, whatever it was that the reaction was making me do. So I actually just left her to her own devices and just went out, and I actually sat, and a friend actually rang me at exactly that moment and I got to share with her, like, oh, I don't know what to do. I said to her, I really don't know what to do in this situation. And she said, yeah, I'm hearing you. And like, we just talked about different things, and she just gave me another strategy, and it was great, because then I just thought, okay, I feel good now. I can go back in and we can talk about it and we can just move forward. And so I think what Carolyn said before, this, like in the moment, it's like trying to stop the mind from projecting what's going to happen to her if I don't do something right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. She's going to stay at home. She's sleeping in. Okay. But if you can just go, that's only for today. Right? If you can trust that, if you can get into the right place, if you get into your power, if you do your emotional work and you start to become more empowered in this moment, things are going to start happening. You're going to start to get a little like, oh, actually, I could do that. Oh, actually, I could do that. That might be like, for example, for me, like last year, it was like, oh, what am I going to do? And just come into the moment, and you just keep doing your day. You keep trying to deal with your emotion. Then it's like, oh, actually, I've got to get her a job. And I knew that if I got her a job, she'd get off herself and she'd be feeling really good about herself, and she'd get to make money. And that was, and I never would have thought about that had I not been able to step out of my emotional reaction and just come back in and sit in that place in me.
Getting that, the true intelligence popping in instead of that fear, because it's kind of, and I definitely think that even to step back and say, like, okay, when you're in the trenches of something, sometimes it's very hard to see the bigger picture, and like to think that, like, instead of thinking, oh yeah, she's 12, she's not going to school, or she's at that stage where I can't get her to school, she's not getting out of bed, whatever, kind of pull back a bit and say, okay, in the whole scheme of her whole life, this is only a couple of weeks. If we can get over this, like, she can go on to do other things, and maybe it's just going through a transition period where she needs that little bit of time. And like that, they're like little, going into cocoons at that age, like, they don't know themselves. They're kind of like, it's like they're being deconstructing, like down from the child stage into like this preteen type thing, and before they kind of find themselves. So it is a process that she's going through it in her own journey. And I think when you understand that, you can have more compassion for her, like, because it is a difficult time. It is a really challenging time for a teenager, or for anyone, what it's like. And they have so much more pressures on them and stuff than we would have had. So, like, kind of, I suppose, to bring in kind of compassion for the stage she's in, and she will get through it, because like we always say, it's not just us, you and your daughter. Life is the third element of that, which is always going to be working through her and processing through you. So, like, if you have kind of faith and trust that, like, the process is going to bring her to, like, she is growing, she is getting kind of, I sometimes, like, you think that, to understand, like, what's going on in her head, like, she's trying to work things out, probably, she's trying to find her way, and that she will emerge from this. It's a process. And I think how you speak to her, and even with your tone and stuff, has a huge impact on her, like, you know, so like a neutral tone of voice, you know, like really just coming in that you don't in one way, like, you know, that to give the impression that you don't really care whether she's in bed or not, you know, because then the control goes out of it. She's not controlling you. Then at the moment she's kind of controlling you as well, because she's getting control back from you, you know, she's able to push your buttons, you know, and, you know, and that gives her kind of a false sense of power. So you have to be careful of that as well, you know, that she's kind of, it is a power dynamic, as in she's trying to control you, you're trying to control her. And it's, you know, so I think putting it into neutral gear, like if you're driving a car, and take your emphasis off and do the opposite, and like, you know, even singing around the house, start singing or put the kettle on, and
that's right,
you know, just like, I don't really care like what you do kind of thing, you know, if you want to do that, that's your life. If you want to stay in bed and if you want to drop out of school, fine, I'm going to be going along, do my thing. And if you and then you can be surprised, like she might decide to get up and have a shower and then, you know, go out for a walk, or you know what I mean, you can change that quickly. You'd be really, really surprised. But I would just try, because I think there is control there. She can be controlled. When you're reacting that way, she's controlling you.
And I think that's the thing, right? Because they're feeling powerless because they're becoming teenagers and they don't know what's happening, and there's all this other stuff happening. So the way that people get power is to actually have power over other people in our society, because they're not actually taught how to get power in a healthy way. So for her, you're her target, right? She knows exactly what she can do to actually make you feel powerless. And as soon as you feel powerless, she gets a hit. It's like an addiction, right? So at the moment, she's got this addictive dynamic going on with you, and maybe you have with her too. Like for you, it might be an unconscious dynamic that you played with your mum. Like there may be this, and so for you, it's like your freedom comes when you understand that dynamic and when you step back into your true self and you actually have a look at the emotions behind it, because the dynamic happens when we don't address the emotion. So if you go, I feel powerless. Okay, there you go. You're in the dynamic. Why do I feel powerless? Okay, I'm feeling really powerless. You get yourself some space. I'm feeling powerless. Oh, okay, this is because this is activating that part of me that feels not good enough. That part of me that as a kid felt unlovable, and I'm frightened that she doesn't love me anymore. I'm frightened that I'm going to lose her. So all of that emotion is being activated, and you're feeling powerless, right? So we're like looking at them and going, they are making me feel like that, but actually their behavior is just activating all that emotion. So if you can always look for the emotion that's hidden underneath and go deal with that. All right. So me, it's like, okay, this is activating my not good enough. Okay, what can I do about that in this moment? Okay, in this moment, what can I do about that? Well, I feel really good going for walks, actually. So I'm just going to step out of this house and I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to listen to something that makes me feel inspired. I'm going to actually build my inside up. I'm going to connect with my little girl, because she's probably my inner self, my inner child is probably feeling really insecure and really unlovable. So I want to connect with her. I want to assure her. So these are all the things I do when I feel that emotion being activated in the background. And as soon as I do that, it's almost like, right, if you can imagine all of these aspects of yourself from your childhood and your teenagehood, they've all been separated, right? And every time your daughter does something, it activates one of them out here, and they're out there and they're feeling stuff, right? This little girl and this look, all these parts of yourself that have had similar situations happening, they're all activated back here. And it's like in that moment, you want to bring them all in. You want to say, come home to me. Right. And you want to see them all and see the activation, bring them into you right now. And it's like right here and right now, I'm empowered in this state. I can bring them into my heart. I can integrate those parts of me right here and right now. I can find something that I love to do and I can go and do it right now. I can do some writing right now. I can connect with those parts of myself right now. I can go for a walk right now. And as soon as you bring those parts of you in, like even just imagining that happening, you can feel the energy of it in your body. And right in that moment, you are here. You are present. All of you is right here, right now. And that's where the power is. But you've got to do that work, right? You've got to actually do that work and bring all those parts of you so that when you turn up, all of you is here.
Okay. Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So this is really about you, okay? On a bigger level, you and her are here to grow and to find your true selves. That's her journey as well. Her journey is to come back home to who she truly is. And she's using you to do that, and you're using her to do that. And so if you come back to that place, she sees that in you. You're mirroring that.
Yes.
And she doesn't get trapped in the dynamic, right? Because you've stepped out of the dynamic. So she can't get trapped there. So she really is being called to her true self because you're not running that dynamic anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, it's like as if when they have the power over you like that, you're kind of enabling it in one way. Because so what I used to do, I remember when I started making the dinner, you know, I'd put my favorite music on. I started connecting back to like, what do I like to listen to? You know, like what kind of CDs do I like? You know, what kind of, so I'd start to bring like that fun back into the house for myself, you know? So like I was kind of like, I just like, okay, I'd put on music, I'd be making the dinner, I'd be just singing away to myself, and I'd be, you know, enjoying myself, you know, and like saying, well, that's your choice, you know, basically, or give a choice. I could say like, okay, if you want to stay in bed for the next week, that's fine. But after next week, you're going to have to make a decision what you're going to do, because you leave homeschool yourself, because I won't have time to do it. But it's your decision if you want to go to college, if you want to do whatever you want to do in your life. But I'd hand over the power back to her and say, well, I'll give you a choice, give her two choices. You can do this, you can stay in bed for the, you know, whatever you want to do with your life, that's it. Or you can go back to school, you know, at a certain date. But, you know, I leave it up to yourself, you know, and you just start to bring the joy in, start enjoying your life and say, I'm stepping back from this, you know, and then see what happens, you know.
Yeah, it's powerful. My dad did that to me once, you know, like I dropped out of year 11. I was just like, I don't know, I took off up the coast and I was smoking a lot of dope and I was really naughty. And my dad just rang me up and said to me, how you going? I said, oh, I'm really good. And he goes, so you're going to come back to school? And I went, oh, you know, I'll hang out a bit. And he goes, well, that's all right. It's your choice. How about when you come back, we just go and see if we can get you a job packing shelves at Woolies? Or, you know, it was something like that. And I just went, well, oh no, well, like I was going to go to uni. And then it was like it hit me what I was doing. My behavior really hit me. But he just did it so casually. And like
exactly.
It was just like, oh my gosh, I better come back. I want to go to uni. It's like
exactly. See, it's just like it's such you. It's great. Like just and it's much easier, isn't it? You know, at least we were saying it did, you know, just to let go of it. Like I say, okay, it's fair enough. Like I brought you up to this stage at 14, like I've done my very best. Such, you know, the part of growth for a teenager is taking responsibility for their lives. You know what I mean? So it's actually you stepping back a bit, you know, and you getting connected back with yourself a bit, and then they have to start doing it, you know. So it's not, you know, it's cutting the apron strings a bit, you know.
Can I ask a question though? Because she does this thing where she just goes to a friend's house and she doesn't tell me anything. And then I ring her and I go, where are you? And she goes, oh, I'm staying at such and such's house. And I'm like, well, you never asked me. I didn't know what you were doing, you know? And she's like, oh, what can I say? Such and such, thanks, bye. So it's like, well, I didn't agree to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, then I'd start putting boundaries in place and just say, listen, it's fine that you're doing that, but if you're going to do that, I'd like to know beforehand.
I have said that, but she doesn't adhere to it. I've said that to her.
So this is like, this situation, when you get to that point, it's like they are almost adults, right? And what do? Like you can't make them, because they're not going to listen to you. Or you can, you know, like my mum used to say to me, well, if you just leave now, then you're not going to go out on Friday night. And I'm going, well, you can't stop me now. You can't stop me Friday night either. Like I can totally relate to where she's at, right? But that's because I was really hurt. I had a whole lot of emotion and I had nowhere to put it. Like my dad had left the family. So this, for your daughter, this is all an emotional thing, right? There's a whole lot of emotion that she hasn't dealt with, and she's probably making you pay for it. Like this is her, and it's being targeted at you probably because she loves you and she knows you will keep loving her. So I think that when you get to that point, when she's actually doing stuff like that, I mean, I don't know, but I feel like the only thing that you can do is to just be so powerful in yourself totally get your life together, totally know where you're going, like really come into your power, you know, and if things aren't okay for you, you say, that's not okay with me. I can't change your behavior, but that is not okay with me. So this is what I will do in the future. Or this is like, you know, like it's going to have to be a really intuitive thing. Like sometimes when you're in those places, it's like your intuitive response is often the best, you know, but it is like you're going to have to find you and come into that power so that you can access that intuitive response. And it might be that you're looking for different, like when you start to pray for different solutions and you're in that place, solutions come, you know. So it's like, okay, if she's doing that, what can I do about that? So there's some things that you might be able to do. Like if you know the girlfriend's mums, you have a pact with them that if they go to the mum's place, you have a conversation with them and you say, if my daughter turns up, can you say to her that she needs to make sure that you know and that it's okay with you before she stays? Because if they're supporting you, then you've got a cohesion of mums. So there's a whole lot of little things that you might actually go, oh, I could do that, or I could do that, that you'll find when you actually come back into your power. But when you're in reaction and you're feeling powerless, because that's what that does, like, and your head's going, I'm a bad mum, right? Your head might be going, if I let her sleep in and I don't make her get up, or if I let her do that, then I've totally just stuffed up as a mum. And so this is your, you know, I'm not good enough in the background. But the truth is that you cannot be responsible for her choices at this age. Right? You can't be. And if you feel responsible for it, then you're really setting yourself up. You're putting a great big weight on your own shoulders. You know, she will grow up to be who she's going to be. You've had some influence, but her choices and her nature and the people around her are going to play probably a much bigger role than what you are right now in where she's going to be.
Right. Yeah.
But I'd say that she will come back, you know. It's a period of time just for yourself to know that, like, it's kind of like, it's funny, I went to the very same things, but it's actually amazing how it turned out, where it was kind of like that dynamic of going away and not saying anything and then coming back, and eventually then it kind of settled down where now I get informed all the time, like, you know. And it was actually the pulling away of control that I had done, where I'd put in boundaries in place, but I wouldn't come down hard on them, you know, that kind of way. So I would just kind of make sure that there was boundaries, that she didn't come into the boundary, then she'd know that I wasn't so happy. So basically it was like the connection was the thing that she yearned for more than anything. So when I had that lovely kind of tone, and I was always very, you know, lovely with her, that was her reward as such, you know. And she knew when she went across the boundaries, then I wasn't going to be okay with it, you know, the kind of way. And it was kind of like she got to the stage where it was like she wanted to be in that lovely bubble with me, you know, that kind of way, you know. So it wasn't that I enforced it, but I created a really nice kind of connection with her that she enjoyed. And that because I was actually nice to be around, you know, and sometimes I was nicer than her friends to be around, because I was always in that nice space. I had the music on, I was listening, chatting, laughing about things. I didn't take things too seriously. And actually that became more attractive than all the dynamic of the friends. And sometimes they want all that freedom and realize that, God, it's very complicated, you know, because they have just bullying that goes on, the different things that go on. And actually the safe space that you had with me at home was much more simple, and it was much more beautiful, and was much more connected, and it was much nicer. So gradually, just like the sun, she just kind of turned around and came back, you know. So the most powerful thing for me was to be that, like the sun. I always think the sun, you know, like connect to your feminine force. You know, you have that control, you have that beauty, you have that connection with her. You're her mom. There's no one on this earth that she loves more than you. You know, and to just believe that in yourself and know that you have that within you, you know, and she can't run or hide from that no matter what she does, you know, yourself with your own. It's such a connection that goes throughout time. And, you know, when you just come back into yourself and be really present with yourself and start loving yourself and becoming that warmth for yourself and that heat, you know, you know, and that just kind of radiates, that she won't be able to you know, stay away,
Yeah.
and it becomes a lovely, peaceful place to come back to, you know, and it can take a bit of time, but that's the work really, and it's only going to benefit you as well, because it's about coming back to yourself, and you know, because as moms, like, we go through an awful, it's tough, really tough job. It's really hard, like, for the first, you know, I mean, you've mothered her for so many years, it's not easy, and we've kind of resigned ourselves to that, and we've kind of sometimes divorced ourselves from ourselves, and it's a time to come back to yourself and start to, you know, marry yourself and get engaged with yourself again, you know, have a bit of a love affair with yourself, and then you know see what comes from there.
I think that's it too. It's like, you know, like, rather than sort of being so engaged in what she's doing and feeling powerless, it's like, come back and have the love affair with yourself, you know, bring the warmth into yourself, do what makes you happy, and really focus on that and be that person, you know, and trust that flow of, you know, like, you both in this emerging process right now, both of you are emerging. And if you can trust that the life that flows through you and her will actually take you to the best solution if you get out of the way, right? When we're in there trying to control them and fix them and make things right, we're in the way of the emerging process. So get out of the way, come and do your work, you know, like, set yourself up for a good time every day. Imagine that she's happy. Imagine, you know, watch her, you know, sort of imagine her being happy. Imagine her coming to you. See that solution, like, all the time during the day. Just keep imagining you two getting along really well. So you're living in the solution. You're doing your own work. You're coming into your power. And when you have feelings like, okay, I'm just going to let her do that, I'm going to tell her for 2 weeks, sleep in if you want for 2 weeks, but then you've got the choices. These are your two choices. And if during that time the little voice comes in and goes, oh my God, you can't, what if she chooses this? It's like, okay, then you deal with that emotion, right? So if the fear comes up in you, then you go, oh, okay, I need to deal with this, because that is going to get in the way of you doing that with your daughter. So whenever you feel something come up, it's like, okay, deal with it, address it right now, because that's what's going to get in the way of you actually staying in that place and really loving yourself and coming into your power.
Right.
Do you feel like you've got some practical things that you can do? Like, do you feel?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, good.
I do.
And
I mean, I have been, like, you know, doing stuff with my friends more, and which, you know, gives me pleasure.
Exactly.
But then she comments and she says, oh, you're always out with your friends. And I'm like, I can't win here. Like, do you know what I mean? Because she doesn't.
So when she says stuff like that, that's like you could actually say, I'd really love to connect with you. Would you like, it's almost like it's asking for connection. So rather than, if you can, rather than feeling defensive, if you can just go, okay, this is actually, she wants me to connect. And it's like, okay, you know, I love to hang out with you. Let's make a date, you know, like, let's sit and talk.
Yeah. Or do you want to go for coffee, or do you want to, because, you know, it's changing the thing up a bit, but she's getting a bit older. So do you want to go shopping? Like, we did loads of shopping. But do you want me to buy you a top, or do you want to, like, or even if she was going back to school, I don't know if she's uniform, whatever, like, kind of say, oh, we'll go on a shopping trip, or let's get you organized for going back to school, or, you know, like, let's see if we'll, you know, giving her something to look forward to, something to kind of, you know, so like, that's a way of trying to find a newer, more grown up way of connecting, like, you know, whether it's going to get like a frappuccino or whatever that they like to drink, you know, or something that they trying to meet them where they're at, but you
go
know,
to a movie, or you know, see something that maybe you might not have thought of. Just say, oh, let's do this together, you know. And she may knock you back, but the thing is, don't take it personally. Always remember that's her projecting her stuff onto you. So it's like, if you can just stay in your power and love yourself, you know, and then just keep asking.
And kind of breaking the rules with her a little bit. Like, it's the other way. I remember I started, like, bring them really late on a Saturday night to watch the movies. I way past what they normally leave their bedtime. So it's kind of like, oh my God, you know, like, and then realize that actually, you know, they were getting a little bit of freedom with me, even, you know, we're doing things that were kind of fun, that were out of hours that you'd normally do, or, you know, kind of breaking it up a little bit and having a little bit more fun yourself with her, you know. And like, then they'll start to see, like, oh, my mum's a bit more cool than I thought, you know. You know.
So I think that you've got somewhere to start, because you can definitely start with yourself. Like, yourself is already here. Yourself is already willing.
Yeah, definitely. No, that was really good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we had some fun just then. As you can see, the challenges of mums in this day and age can be quite complex, because there's a whole lot of other stuff added in, and really it comes back to awakening your feminine force. So Carolyn and I would love to invite you to our learning community. You can see more about that on the link underneath, because we want to really deal with these issues in a real life way, so that you can actually have something to go away with and implement right now. And each month in our community, we're going to talk about the different issues that mums are facing, real, like depression, anxiety, bulimia, anorexia, self-harming, like all of those things we're going to go through every month, and have a teaching each month. But also, you're in a community where hopefully we can do more of these sorts of, we really want to do this, like invite mums into our safe space, into our community, where mums can come with the issues that they're having, and we can just, mastermind them together, and actually help you guys sort of walk away with some really powerful tools.
Yeah, and also helping mums to connect back to themselves, like in that community, and enjoy a space with other women to kind of help you connect back to yourself and find that joy in life yourself, because that's so important for you to enjoy life.
Yeah, it is.
It'll help all your relationships, not just with your daughter. Yeah,
it's true. So thank you, Sybil. I really appreciate your time and your honesty, and just sharing so openly, because I'm sure that so many mums have really benefited from hearing what you're going through, because you are not alone. My mum could certainly relate to what you're going through. I'm sure there's many other mums there that are going, oh, wow, like I'm not alone. So I really appreciate that you've just had the courage to come on and share so openly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. No, thanks for all your help. Thank you both.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks, Sybil. Thanks so much.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.